just give the floor to Harsha so we can start this session now.
Thank you, Vikram. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another expert session organized by PGP Pro Hyderabad 21. Our speaker, Vikrant Singh, who is also an ISB alumni, will be sharing his own experience in running a startup. Grant has begun his career with Motorola, and he has worked with different companies like Bharat Forge, 5i Technologies, Sensberg, and he is also a co-founder of Hincha, a premium tea brand. Migrant has also been a CEO of AIC with alumni like ISB Association, and has been a key person to operate and be a part in incubating from ground zero to 25 high quality startups in a year. He's a true business leader with 360-degree view, executing and growing a business from micro level to macro. Thank you so much, Vikrant, for giving us time and sharing your insights on this. Before going, I just wanted to share some ground rules. If anyone has any questions, please share your, please raise your hands. And if you have any questions, please share that in the group chat. We'll be taking them accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you, Harsha. Can I go ahead?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay. So welcome, guys. Glad to see you all healthy and live and kicking at this time. I'm sure you must be busy working and studying both at the same time. So I'll quickly start with the session. This session is about starting it up, and we are going to discuss the nuts and bolts of starting it up. In this session, we'll also discuss the what and the why of it. Let me start this discussion here. And even before I start, let me tell you that this presentation is a very interactive presentation. We can discuss things, we can share things, and I'll be probably nudging you guys to discuss more on what we share. So if you can see him, this smiling guy is a friend of mine. His name is Aurelio. He's a German guy. He lives in an Indian village, and he manufactures specialized world-class instruments and sell it across the globe. Now, the thing which we have to think is that why this German guy is sitting in India making musical instruments and selling it across the globe. So what does what pops up in your mind? Like, I just want to know. I don't have an answer to this right now. We'll discover it together later. But I'm just thinking, what is the first thought which comes to you?
Taking Indian music to the globe.
Yes, taking Indian music to the globe. Nice. But why do you think this German guy is doing it?
The ancient Indian talent of making these instruments, right? Maybe some skill that we have lost while we are looking at the West, but he looked at India and maybe just wanted to know about it and popularize it as well.
Maybe Indians never appreciated it. As Westerns appreciated the culture.
So he saw a niche where he could work on.
Maybe it's like most of the Western instruments are famous everywhere, like guitar and other stuff, but not Indian instruments, like whatever used in classical instruments like tabla and stuff.
So probably the supply side of things, he found that he could make good quality instruments in India. The labor is cheap. The people have traditional skills. That's what you're saying when you say good quality Indian instruments.
No, not just instruments, but we have seen Western music used almost everywhere in the globe, but not Indian music, but other than Indians.
Right, got it. Any other thought, guys?
Maybe there is a sudden of Indian instruments in the global market, so that's why he's kind of capturing that.
Right. I've noted all these down. Okay, so we'll park this thought process right here, and we'll discuss it in the end of the, this presentation. Okay, so I want to highlight this process. Like, there's something which I've just named startup yoga. You can name it anything, but I want to bring your attention to something which happens before people start their companies. And that process is a very undermined process. People don't really pay attention to this process, or when they are entering into it, they don't know that this is a very energy intensive process. It is, it is very resource intensive also. It is very iterative, it is repetitive. This process, I'll come to the process later, but I want to take this opportunity to highlight that this process is very important and is very resource intensive. So when you hear 4 people, a lot of my friends, like when we were thinking about startups, they used to come, we used to discuss a couple of startups, then we used to open our beers, and then startup was the discussion was over. But I realized this myself few years back, that when you think of a startup, you have to put in so much energy. You have to think what of it, you have to think the why of it, and I'll come to it later. But I'm just saying that it's very energy intensive, and one has to know this before they enter into the startup game. Okay, so it's a circular process, it's a circular journey, and now let me start giving you example of it. What is this iterative process? And I'll give you an example which I know of. Then probably we'll do one round with somebody who is from the audience. Okay. So when I say circular journey, think of a guy. You can name him anything. Let's call him Ted. Okay. So this guy starts thinking of starting a startup, and when he thinks about it, the first question is like, "Kya karna hai yaar? What should I do? What venture should I get into?" So he thinks of, I should maybe start a hyperloop. There's no hyperloop in India. Maybe that's a good business opportunity. Then he thinks that the COVID has kind of hit the gym space, public gymming spaces. So maybe I should start a home exercising bike. One of his friend is already making one, and he has the technical capability to access that technology. So he's saying, okay, that sounds like a great opportunity. Maybe people who are NRIs can't manage their property well in India. Should we get into property management system? Okay. Then he thinks, assistive technology, people who have hearing problem, or people other assistive technologies which are there. There are a lot of devices which are very high value devices. I should get into that. I should get into e-commerce delivery of assistive technology devices. And that's probably a space to get into. Or maybe get into something else. Get into an e-commerce driven product which is exported somewhere. These are 4 or 5 things which come, and I'm just articulating them. This guy maybe took a couple of months or maybe 3-4 months to think about it. And this was the iterative process, this iterative journey of thinking about it. This was the what of things. So what he already knew, what he already knew in terms of domain functions. About, when I say domain function, domain specific, I give an example of my domain would be T now. Or what he knew from the business functions, like if he was leading a team, so can he create a team of 5 people? Can he invest in a company, make a company, and start the work around it? So both domain and function wise, he gathered his knowledge, and he or she gathered their knowledge, and he kind of came up with these whats. And this was diffuse thinking. When I say diffuse thinking, it's actually a emotional intelligence word, where you kind of think very widely, and you engage a lot of people, a lot of thought process which is very widespread. Okay, so this diffuse thinking happened, and we came up with these ideas. Okay, now we started validating these ideas. We started reaching out to people. We started talking to somebody in the Hyperloop space. This guy rang up a scientist and say, okay, I want to do a Hyperloop, and maybe called a railway guy and say, okay, is Hyperloop, possible? These guys told him, no, there are a lot of technical challenges in Hyperloop. So he kind of struck that down. Hyperloop is not happening right now. Then he talked about bikes, and he went to this guy, and this guy told him that these guys actually access Hero Cycle people, and they tell him that it's not about the bike, it's about the money you spend in the inventory of a bike. Okay, so the game is that a lot of money spent in the stuck inventory. So now he struck that down. So just see what process is happening right now. You figure out the what's, you with diffuse thinking, you gather information, you reach out to people, you do a lot of other iterative stuff, and you get to the why of things. Why should I not do it? Why should I do it? These things. Then thinking about say property management systems, there were some legal issues around it. Assistive technology, it's a very small market. Only 1% of the people of the population actually needs it. So should as a business decision, should this guy go about it? So these were the whys, and why not as a strategy this guy did not do it. Let's say from this filter there came an output where it was like, okay, let's get into e-commerce and digital brand creation, and let's get into exports. Okay, so we passed this stage of why here, and now we think about prototype. Prototype is again about one's ability to test the market in the real sense. So when I say real sense, prototype can range from anything to anything. Like, it can be a digital model which people like or don't like, or it can be a real product. It doesn't have to be this entire range is called prototype. So for example, in my case, I bought some teas and kind of sold it to US customers and saw that, okay, yes, there is some traction. But then I realized, okay, this is not happening. People are just not buying any tea. They are getting into premium teas. So I got a feedback from the market. So I'm now doing convergent thinking, and I got a feedback from the market. Okay, you get in premium teas. Normal teas are not fetching with that sort of price. So we integrated that feedback into our business model. And again, kind of came up with a what, say, for example, tea in my case. So this was this journey which we traveled. And this was not like one circle, it was like hundreds of circles. And there comes a point of time where you kind of you kind of get an escape velocity where you see, okay, now we can, there is this, there's this escape velocity which kind of enables you to start your business. So when I say escape velocity, after this much work, it is the time just to start the right business. So this is the journey which I'm talking about. So can we, amongst the audience, does somebody want to kind of do a couple of iterations live with all the people to kind of see whether this works or not, or whether this is helpful in your journey? Should we try this? Or should I keep it and park it for the end of the class?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we can do that if people are interested. So we can ask people to raise hands, and then we can do it towards the end. If you're okay with that, or you want to do it right now?
We can do it in the end also.
Okay.
Okay. It will help us to kind of let's do it in the end, because now going forward I am discussing something which might help in this.
Yeah, I would like to try this, but we can park it towards the end of the session.
Done. So, okay. So when we are thinking about this iterative process, there are certain things we need to think about. In this, there are certain points which, if we are aware of, this might help us choose or go through this iterative process in a more focused way. And I've tried to enlist those iterative those points here. So we need to think about the market, we need to think about the product, we need to think about the model, our business and engagement model, and we need to think about the customer. And again, strategy is about choosing and not, it's about choosing, but it's also about leaving. What do you leave and what do you choose? Strategy is about that. Okay. About the market. So when you look at a market, it's very important. I learned it from my drone days, when as an engineer, I was more than excited to work on a technology, and we kind of developed, these integrated systems which could scan the mines and give an integrated input to Caterpillar team. I was very excited about it. But then I realized, there are very few users of it. One needs to work in an expanding market, a market which is constant or a contracting market kind of stops you stops you from growing and even from getting decent traction in the market. So expanding market, I think, is a very important area one needs to focus on and see how the expansion is happening. Is there a segment? Is there a stagnation? Is there a saturation? Or is there a growing number of new users in the market? So with increasing population, with increasing consumerism, with increasing paying capacity, markets usually expand. But you need to check that when you're thinking of a product of a market. Then one also needs to see that how is market segmented and what is the resegmentation possibility. And then I'll explain this. What is resegmentation? See, for example, the segments would be, say, clothing for women and clothing for men. But resegmentation would be formal clothing for women. So this is a new angle which is there, which was not there earlier. So the same audience, how can you create your niche with the current existing customer segments, or resegment those customer segments so that you have a very focused audience to cater to? So this is resegmentation. Because in terms of market, there are only two things: either you cater to existing market or you cater to future market. Future markets have a time horizon of 6 to 7 years, and usually startups are not, like, especially Indian startups where we do not have access to so much funds. We are not able to strive for so much such a long time. So the idea is to get into the resegmentation space and try to figure your niche in the segmentation space. Then one has to think about beachheads. Beachhead is basically from the military terminology. The idea is to get a foot in the door. So what used to happen was that armies, especially the Navy side of things, when these guys used to go to conquer some other country, they had a small fleet which used to go ahead and create a post on the beach so that they are not attacked from the beach. That's called the beachhead technically. Similarly, like when you are venturing out for a business, you need a small foothold in an industry, and that's a beachhead. Your beachhead has to be manageable. It cannot be very big because you have limited resources. It cannot be very small because then it would not matter. It just has to be right. So beachhead is important, and your ability to create a leadership to create leadership in that beachhead is also very important. So that small segment where you can be a leader, because when you are a market leader in even a manageable segment, then what happens is you give a trusting signal to the ecosystem. Your vendors start trusting you, your customers start trusting you, your brand value increases exponentially, and using a brand you can create a great dominance in the market when you step outward your own beachhead market. So this approach of getting into a beachhead, creating that leadership on the beachhead is very important. Then one has to also look into go-to-market strategy. Prakhar, you have a question right now, Prakhar?
Yes, so regarding beachhead only, so
Right.
we do kind of get, because of the limited resources, we understand where the limit is, right? So when you talked about the upper side of the limit, then I understand. But what about the lower side? How do you know when it is too small? How do you kind of make it out?
So I think it would depend upon different sectors. Like I think the question which an entrepreneur needs to ask about oneself is that even if I create a leadership and dominance in that market, is it big enough to give the message to the entire ecosystem? So like, for example, I'm sitting out of Pondicherry and I am the toothbrush king of Pondicherry. Okay. But if I am, that's one thing. But if I am a zigzag toothbrush kid of Pondicherry, king of Pondicherry, where I do very well zigzag, toothbrushes. I think that's too small for me to like get a reputation in Delhi. Like, okay, this guy is worth something. Does it help?
Yeah, kind of. But I was looking at the kind of thinking in terms of volume actually. So that was my mindset. If you're coming up with like the example you gave of cycles, basically exercise bicycles. So basically to enter into the market, how many kind of how do you decide on the minimum inventory you need to have to make an impact in the market?
Right.
So that you kind of, there is a presence. So how?
Well, I get your question. And actually, not even this, like all of the, the points which I am discussing, I think most of the points are very contextual to both market and the person attempting to be, to access, to kind of venture out into that market. So for example, if say Culfit acquired a cycling company today, they wanted to get into the market, so they acquired the company itself. So it was kind of a, this ability of a startup, the kind of investment they have, that they were able to take a call on that. So it depends upon your resources. It depends upon your ability, one's own ability. Like if somebody asks me to get into that market, I do not have so much. I cannot have a minimum number around that. So I think that's what I can answer on this.
Okay,
it's contextual. I'll say it's contextual. Like just long story short, I think it's contextual. It depends upon who is attempting it.
Okay. Thank you.
So, okay, the go-to-market strategy. So, are you using go-to-market strategy? Would be something like, are you using Amazon to prototype the market? You just want to send your, your shoes to Africa and see that a country which has Amazon. So, are people buying it or not? You will send few, leather shoes. You will send few, cloth shoes and see if there's some traction or not. You have a question, Harsha?
Yeah, Vikrant. So before going to a market strategy and resegmenting and planning a market strategy and deciding the opportunity, how do we decide this is the actual market, or whatever market you are trying to research is a good opportunity and things like that?
So are you asking me that what to do is something which you want to understand? Like if I'm...
It's like how to do market research for any idea. Is there any solution for newbies who want to start something new?
How to do market research?
How do you determine the right decision to start?
So your question is how to do the market research for a startup. Is that the question?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think, Harsha, that's a great question. And, I think a lot of us kind of we take the traditional approach. And then we try to study stuff, and we try to read reports and see all those and see the size of the market and see that itna bada market hai, to 1% if I get it, then also it's big enough. But I think the real way to study the market is to do all these things. I'm not saying one should not do all these things, but the real way to assess the market is to prototype, is to launch. When the rubber meets the road, market will tell you what. The idea is to get a hypothesis and to be able to test that hypothesis without incurring a lot of cost. Once you are into that loop where you are, for example, why did I do teas? I already had access to a 70-year-old tea house. So I did not have to procure it from Assam, get it to myself, take thousands of kgs of tea, and then try to sell it to US. Okay, I already was able to use my inventory and just send it off to US. So my cost of prototyping was very small. So you have to figure out that those businesses where your cost of prototyping is small, and the market will tell you whether your hypothesis is correct or not. Because more often than not, what we hypothesize, like I was selling 11 products in US and I was thinking, okay, these 4 products will do really well. But market is different. Like my masala chai is a great hit there, which I never thought would be. I thought they were more of a black tea people and all. So market tells you what to do and what not to do. As an entrepreneur, your ability to understand the market stems from your ability to prototype in a lean way. You should choose those businesses. That's why a lot of, you see that a lot of co-founders are technical co-founders, because then if somebody who's not a technical co-founder kind of develops a technical product, this guy goes out, gives the project to somebody. This guy charges a lot from this guy, and then they are not able to integrate the feedback which they get from the market. So your ability to prototype, your ability to integrate the feedback with limited resources is something what defines your market research. Does that help?
Yeah. Thank you, Vikrant.
Okay, so this go-to-market strategy, like what are you looking at? Tapping into some distribution network? Are you trying to use Amazon as a prototyping tool? Are you totally depending on Amazon to kind of be your business partner? So this is the go-to-market strategy broadly, and this is not like set in stone. It kind of develops as you see the feedbacks in the market. Okay. And your ability to, as I was discussing with Harsha also, that your ability to integrate that market feedback into your product. So do you have enough handle on with yourself where you kind of integrate that feedback in your product and are able to say, suppose my market says, okay, Americans are looking for lesser spicy tea. So do I have the in-house blending and making capacity where I can do a lesser spicy tea? Or do I have to go to some third person, again, take 100 kgs of tea, go to the blender, take 50 spices, see if it happens, or go to a tea taster, ask him that, okay, is this blend okay for US? And then I can send it. Or do I have the in-house capability? Or do I have an access to an in-house capability? Somebody was raising the hand and I can answer it.
Yeah. So continuing to Harsha's question, post-market research, do we have any metrics to understand the product market fit? Or does this depend on industry-wise or product basis? But we have any generalized perspective to understand, yes, this metric is good, so I can go and continue this. And this is a good opportunity to invest more.
So when you say product market fit, okay, how will we define product market fit? I'm going ahead. I'm not asking this question to you. I'll try to answer it myself. See, the product market fit is basically a result of an iteration. Okay, you came up with a product, you went out with the market, and first product A you took to the market, nobody was ready to buy it. Then you came back, you integrated the feedback. You again went to the market, nobody. People liked it, but nobody was ready to buy it. Then you again, integrated some feedback. You again went to the market, and this time the guy was like, "Okay, I'll try it for a couple of days, and if I find it's okay, then I'll pay." Okay, then you kind of you went ahead with it. Then this guy paid for it. So these are like different stages of product market fit. We call it like minimum viable product, minimum viable business product, MVBP. So this MVBP is where people are willing to pay for your product which you have made. If that is happening, and then you see the diffusion, the diffusion and the adoption. I'll come to that product later in the next slide. But the idea of diffusion and adoption is that you need to have some idea. Okay, like for example, there is a startup which was working in a similar area. Say you are working with shoes. The other startup was working with something similar, say socks or some sports equipment. Okay, and then you need to understand how did their diffusion happen. So your diffusion and product adoption has to be seen with reference to the diffusion and product adoption of comparable items. And there are different ways to do this. Like you don't really need to run a regression analysis for this. Like you can say that, like, okay, in these 3 years, this company sold so many goods in these different geographies. There are databases which give you access to those things. So you can kind of get access to those databases and see, okay, so this is the kind of diffusion this guy has seen. So I should be expecting something like this. Does this answer your question?
Yes, got.
Okay, now I'll talk about the product. We did discuss a couple of points. So like the same thing which we were discussing, just now. The diffusion and adoption track record of a similar product is very important. Say, for example, I want to do drones. I should have ideally, the way I approach drones, I was like, this is a good technology, something will happen with it. This was the engineer's mind, which was at play there. But I should have seen how 3D technology has evolved. How people like researchers might be, 3D technology people, it's a business still a business of the future. People who are still developing, R&D field are still getting some traction in the 3D technology. But as a on the other side of it, the application side of it, you still find minimalistic use, and people. This is a very growing market right now. Growing market in the sense it's a very limited market, and it is yet to grow. I want to say this: it's yet to grow. I've not seen a traction there. I should have known that drone is a something like a 3D technology with a lot of regulations, because it is flying also in the air and it can carry a bomb also. Okay, so that factors have to be figured out. What is the similar product? How was the diffusion happening? Like if somebody gets into, say, electrical contracting, or somebody gets into the structural engineering, I will always say, please have a look at the diffusion of solar energy, how it has evolved. Like, because you have to, make a structure there, and then your pipeline is always there, because it is a project to project kind of a business. Every time you have to customize it according to the new customer requirement. So are you set in for that sort of job? What is your capability to do that? I think those things are very important. The diffusion and adoption of comparable products are very important. Then second is about that one product is not just one product. It is set of features. See, I'm not a product guy, so I'm not a product engineer, so I did not know this. This was a very revealing thing for me, that these are set of features, and these are set of features comparable to other features. So just to give an example from my product, like Hindi Cha, probably because of the word cha, our masala chai sells best at Hindi Cha. Because people in US relate cha to chai and then hincha. Although our Darjeeling Rare Muscatel or Assam Black Gold or a green tea would probably be better quality than our masala chai, but because people relate with the word, maybe probably the way we have packed it looks a bit more Indian, so people are kind of gravitating towards our masala tea more than other stuff. So then that is when we realize that product is not just tea. Product is tea plus packaging, plus the name, plus the design, plus the way you have given your listing, the way you are projecting yourself, the way the customer is experiencing it. So it is set of features, and it is set of features compared to other stuff. So how is Vadham looking as compared to Hincha? So do they look more Indian? Do we look more Indian? Why? So it is very contextual. The color white, the color green, probably because of the color green, they have more sales in with the green teas. We don't know. So it's set of features, and it's set of features compared to other set of features. When Sri will teach you market research, he will do something like conjoint analysis, where you do regression and all. They do this with data. So I did not. I was the last bencher in the class, so I did not study much, but. I this word stuck, conjoint analysis. Yeah. So it was, and I wrote this to Sri also, like it was about the comparison about features. And I think that thumb ruling we can take out and put it in the startup ecosystem also. Now, how to create perceived differentiation? Like, do you have the ability to create perceived differentiation? Like a new company which starts and says, okay, we are bringing tea from India. See, I'm giving a lot of examples from tea industry because I can relate to it a lot. So feel free to ask me to kind of give some other examples in some other industry also. I'll try. So in this perceived differentiation potential, like if somebody, a new business comes and say, okay, I want to serve tea in US. How do I differentiate myself? Versus somebody who goes to New York and says, okay, we are a 70-year-old tea house in Delhi, who has kept a closely guarded secret of 200 recipes, and now we are delivering those teas at your doorstep. The differentiation in terms of the projection. Leave aside that if it is true or not. Like the idea, what I'm trying to say is that projection, that differentiation, the perceived differentiation matters a lot. how do you create that perceived differentiation with your product is something which one needs to think about while selecting a product. Then the scope of product expansion. Like, for example, if somebody says, okay, I want to sell mushrooms, or maybe I want to sell, there's a lot of e-commerce companies, they sell products, say Haldi as a product. And then, the brand is also called Haldi. Now tell me, like, how many kind of Haldis can you make? Is there enough ecosystem? Are there people blending Haldi? Are there people, making 50, 100 of recipes of Haldi? It's not. Or it might be. I'm just giving an example. But in terms of tea, there are 600 natural flavors of tea without any processing. And after processing, you have thousands of flavors of tea. Okay. When I was thinking about it, I just thought, if I choose one tea and one geography every day, it will take me 6-7 years to and I introduce a product every day, one tea and one geography. It will take me 7-8 years to kind of, be through with that sort of product introduction. So I'm just saying that, one needs to think about the scope of the product. It might not be very large, but this is a thing which one should think about. Then comes product inventory. Say for example, I am selling vegetables. Then there's an extra pressure on me that the vegetables will go bad. So one needs to think, like, now a lot of vegetable industry and a lot of fresh food industry, even fruit industry, what they are doing is they are using solar dryers to kind of dry these products, and it is fantastic solution. The consumer gets high quality natural food, the transportation cost is low, and the shelf life has increased. So they have converted the product which had an inventory problem into a product which did not have an inventory problem. So one needs to think about that. The inventory should, when I say like good, I mean that you need to have that price constant or increasing. It should not be distressed inventory where you just need to sell it off after a couple of days. That's one of the things one needs to think about. Model. I will think about the model. So again, like, what's the engagement model of your? A lot of people today, use Insta, for example, to sell their products. How do they create that funnel? They don't like do advertisements on Insta, and people are not there to actually see their advertisements. They kind of get into that infotainment space. They tell you recipes of their products. They tell you what are the benefits, what are the advantages, disadvantages, how to things which they can forward, they can share, they can enjoy with the rest of the team. So it becomes a infotainment channel for them, and that infotainment, that engagement kind of converts into traffic on their website, and that results in a business where you are actually selling stuff to them. So engagement model is very different from the business model. Business model is selling, engagement model is infotainment. Like if you look at this place, say for example, Orwell. Orwell is I don't know if few people would know about it. It's a society which is in Pondicherry, which is the society of the future. So you have around 3,000 people. You have Germans, French, US, Russians, Indians, all of them, and they kind of have a very different thought process, a very different social model. But how do these people earn? Their USP in terms of the projection outside is that it's a refreshing experience for people to come and see how these guys live in terms of their social behavior, in terms of their entrepreneurship, how a person from Germany or a person from, so there's this lady called Saraswati who's doing pottery with local people there. They train them, they tell them how to kind of market it across the globe. And now these guys are perfectly skilled to do that. So this is an experience for people to watch. This is the engagement model where people come here to see spirituality, to see entrepreneurship. But what is the business model? So much traffic comes, they have small shops where people go through those shops and they buy stuff. So engagement and business model are two things. I don't know if this exam, you will actually hear a case study called Benihana restaurant case study. It will be done by Piyush. It is kind of articulating the engagement model and the business model very well. So, but that is where it came to my mind also, that engagement model and business model has to be treated very differently. How does your customer see you? For example, Chayos and us. Chayos would be like people going and having an experience of Indianness and talking. We both are selling teas, right? Our business model is selling teas, but our engagement model is very different. We deliver the experience at home. We try to do that by using omni-channel strategies. We try to cater to them, these guys, by giving them short videos of how to consume tea and all those things. But Chayos kind of creates that experience outside, so that their engagement model is different. So one needs to kind of differentiate these two things. Then where does your capital go? A lot of people, like when I started my drone business, I was like, this X amount of money is required to start a drone business. I'm done with it. It's great. But then I realized, it's only 10-15% of what is required. 85% money is required in marketing and distribution. I was happy, creating a product. Creating a product, like it is very hard for the innovators to see this way, but that is so true. Creating a product doesn't solve a lot of problem. There you will find so many innovative products which are just lying on the shelf. I was talking to a guy at WHO once, and he told me that in this conference, there's this vaccine which was to be given to chickens, and it was an injectable vaccine. So imagine a situation where all the people are running around trying to catch hold of the chicken and trying to inject that vaccine to the chicken. So they thought, what we could do is we can do an oral vaccine. And he was discussing with another doctor, and that doctor just went on his back and took that out and gave it to him. This is the oral vaccine we developed 20 years back. And uselessly these guys were just running around the chicken. So the idea is that great products are good, but they need a proper investment and energy in distribution and marketing. Otherwise, their products don't go anywhere. So that thought process, the distribution and marketing, is very important and takes a lot of your energy, is something which one needs to know. So this is, where does your capital go? One needs to be aware of that. Is it stuck in inventory? Are you spending most of your money in marketing? Is it in R&D? You should know that when you are starting a business. How does it flow? When you invest X amount of money, how much time will you get? Say Y amount of money. How much time? What is the time difference? So somebody doing a government contract, they know that they will be investing, doing a project today. The last installment of their payment will come after 1.5 years, after they're running around with the government. So that time value of money has to be factored in when you are taking out the cost of a project or of a product. Okay. How do you manage a quality supply chain of that product is a question which one needs to answer. And when you will scale up, what is the challenge which you will face? Like, for example, I'm doing 100 kg tea today, giving an example. If suddenly somebody asks, Walmart says, okay, I like your teas, I want to buy 20,000 kgs right away. Can I do that? Am I positioned to do that? So, this thing will define my strategy. I will not go to Walmart now. I will go to a premium retail sector first, where I can satisfy that need. Now the customer.
Mrigank, so before I just have a small question, probably not much related to these slides, but related to how we can build a team. Like basically, when we are trying to validate our idea, checking it while prototyping in the market. I mean, we'll just look at the cost for the prototype, then validate the idea, and then go on. And in the meantime, we also think that our team should also be strong enough to actually envision the product the same way that the founder has thought about it. So how do you think that would add more value in terms of, and what are your thoughts on how to build a team, and where do we really have to focus on while looking at that points?
So tell me this thing, like when you say build a team, you mean that the core team, when you're co-founders, you are trying to hire co-founders, or you trying to hire people to do the work?
So both actually, because when you are talking about the 4 important aspects of this product, right? We are talking about the customer, we are talking about the product, we're talking about the market. So all these things would make sense when we are able to project that product properly in the market. And so even if the prototype works well with 1-person team or with a very limited team, for you to go into the market and strike real ground, then you would definitely need that strong force taking up all the challenges. So in terms of founding members and also the teams to work on. So
Right.
any thoughts on this?
This guy Rajendra, NIT founder Rajendra Prasad, I think. So once he came to AIC and he was talking to all of us, our incubatees also, and he mentioned a very interesting thing. He said, your idea should have leg of its own. And then I added some more, like after a couple of years later, I added one more line, then you can fly with it. This is something which I realized when your initial thing has got traction. I think the first ability of a founder is to attract a co-founder. If one is not able to see, again, like there are single founders who have done really well. You take Oyo, you can give n number. You take Elon Musk. There are single people, although he has some co-founders also. But okay, but does your thought process has traction in it or not? You will find in your ability to find a co-founder. If that thing is working, you will find co-founder at the right time. People will start gravitating towards you. I think it has to do with that sort of that initial giving birth is something the founder has to do it by himself. Like somebody has to give birth and conceive it from idea to something physical. But it will, if it is beautiful, people will get attracted to it. And that is probably the first litmus test to see whether you are doing something right or not. I don't know if it answers your question, but I tried.
Oh, sorry, yeah, that absolutely answers the question.
Anisha, you were saying something.
Hi, I actually had a doubt regarding distress inventory. Like, for example, you're working for a clothing company, like clothing companies deal with a lot of dead stock and inventory not selling, etc. So for a clothing company, how do you handle distress inventory and prevent that from happening?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I'll be frank about it because see, I have not handled distressed inventory, especially in the clothing space. But the way we do it in our tea, we kind of every distressed inventory have their own ways of managing it. A lot of teas are converted into what you call puyars. We don't do it, but Japanese and Chinese people do it. So they start fermenting their teas, and they make cakes and they upsell it also. If you have to take a perfect case study of a distress inventory, you should think about wines. What fantastic thought process these guys came about. Like they were growing grapes, and then they thought, okay, grapes go bad, so let us kind of ferment them and make it it should not degrade. So let us do away with the distress part of it and create wines. Okay, that was the first step. Second step was, okay, you get your taste acquired and sell it for a premium because you are storing something for years. So, after storage, there is a cost of storage. So 10 years of storage, and the taste is not like the tastes good. It's something like they develop an acquired taste and culture around that. So maybe something like that in clothing industry might go, 10 years bad clothes in. There's some sort of marketing and communication campaign which helps people value that stuff more. Probably that is something which can be done. And see, I'm not from this industry, but that's the way other industries handle. They have a way to recycle it. I don't know if it was at all helpful, but I tried.
It was. Thank you.
Okay, so we are at the end of the discussion. We can, now we can open the platform and I can take more questions. Or you guys want me to do something else? Probably I can do that also.
Actually, Ashwini has a question.
Hi. So now you gave an example of the comparison between Chaayos and the other home delivery kind of model. So now how are we ensuring, let's say in case of Chaayos, the user experience, let's say if they wanted to introduce new product, user experience, they can give a sample, and they can get a feedback right then and there itself on that new product. Whereas in the other model that you have just described, that you have just explained, how are you getting the feedback, and that would pave a path for how are you creating the right future path for the product in that model? And the related question is like, what is the optimum time frame in case if there is any to introduce a new product? Is it like every year, every 6 months? How is that?
Right. I think your question is very interesting, and I think we did face this issue at a point of time. What we have started doing is with our customers, and that's why we have gone direct to consumer, segment also. We have started offering our customers a session. So a Zoom session where we kind of enable them to kind of make the right kind of tea. So we do it online with them. It's a omni-channel presence which we have created. We send the kit, and we tell them, okay, this time we'll be online with you, and say we can do a tea tasting party and host a batch of 5 people, or sometimes because we are young and hungry right now, so we want to deal with all the customers by themselves. Right now we are not totally occupied with our customers, so our team kind of reaches out to them, does a Zoom call. Not only the feedback, but also we want them to make the right kind of tea, because tea, what China, people in China say that water is the mother of tea. If you take a wrong TDS water, and if you just brew it wrong, your tea anyways, whatever my leaves are, your experience will be bad. So we need to convey those things also to our customers. So we want to take that initiative, connect with them online over a call or a Zoom call. We kind of educate them. We give them our website has small brewing video also. We are doing that as well. So we are creating different ways in which people can access the right information and give us the feedback. It's an omni-channel approach. Does that help?
Yep. And the added question is like, what is the optimum time frame, if there is any, to introduce a new product? Having like too many products introduced, let's say every 1 month or every 6 months, that might confuse the customer. Absolutely. And they may not know which product to choose. So like, did you experience any of these things, like, and come out with, okay, every year we'll introduce a new product, or every 2 years or something like that? Or how does you even say that the product lifestyle or the product product has reached the maturity stage and it cannot move any further now?
Right. No, actually we did face such such issue. So because it was US, it was difficult for us to launch a lot of products in US. So we chose very carefully, did international research, and we kind of launched 11 products in US. But India, being our home ground, we were like really excited about it, and we were like, okay, all the products have to go from our shop only, so it's not an issue. We can do any number of products, and we released 40 products in India. And yes, there was confusion with customers. We had to create categories, for the customers to see, okay, these are not 40 products, these are 5. There are a couple of ways you can organize these products into, say, certain segments, and then see it. So I agree with you that introducing a lot of products might create problem. Introducing a product today might create a problem. So depending upon the sector, one has to be strategic about it. But what would be the optimum time for this probably would depend upon the kind of segment you are in. If I'm just brainstorming it, probably again, like, I think the optimum time will be defined or can be observed by other people in the field. Like, you can see what is a North Star brand doing. Like, if one needs to calibrate oneself, you can. I always do this. I have not mentioned in this, but I always do this. Whatever I do, I have a North Star brand. I see that brand, the growth of that brand, the way that brand has evolved, what are the problems. I study a brand very deeply before getting into anything. So probably that can be one of the benchmarks to see the optimum time. Does that help?
Yep. Thanks.
Thanks, Mridang. I think we have one question from the chat. So Kishore, do you want to ask it yourself? Kishore Sama.
I've been taking this on record. Yeah. Every time somebody asks a question, I take it on record. Does that help? And people have to say yes.
No problem. Yeah. Hi, Mridang. I just wanted to know which way is easy, like to raise the funds. Is it by taking a loan or raising an equity?
See, it's again my personal thought process, but I'll definitely share with you. I think loan, and I have a very skewed thought process, so just take it with a pinch of salt, okay? But I think loan should always be taken when you have the machine running. When you know that in how much time you will be able to return, and what is the kind of X increase you are looking at. To form a startup, I don't think one should take a loan at all. When you're forming a startup, initial days, equity is the best way to go about it. It also lets you test, like co-founder, it lets you test what is the traction which people are seeing in you. But again, I would say that it depends upon the kind of the business. Like, for example, if I'm getting into something which is very resource intensive, like brand creation is resource intensive. But I do not want to grow with like a company which is, say, a couple of hundreds of crores in 2 years. I'm okay growing small. Okay, and I want to kind of cross-subsidize my B2C activities by my B2B activities. I'm cross-subsidizing. Customer is paying, in a way for my growth, but my growth is small. So that is a cautious call you need to take. Okay, I need to expand and blast, and I need some money. So you go the equity way. But, a problem with Indian equity ecosystem, I'll tell you, it's very American. The whole knowledge, the thought process of the entire startup world is very American, but the Indian requirements are very different. Because see, you are not creating something in India. We do not create a lot of technical products. You take top 10 unicorns of this country and tell me if they hold any IP. They don't. These, in India, we do productization of services. We do technology-enabled companies. Okay. The growth of these companies has its own limitation. It's not like we are going to create, we do not have the capital and the human capital to create Googles and Facebooks of the world right now. We do not have that much access. So, but these VC, the VC ecosystem pushes you like that. It has not, put a Indian lens to it completely. So it pushes you like that, and sometimes you end up running on a treadmill which you do not want to run. So ultimately, you are doing business for yourself. You want to find a balance of life. You want to complete your life goals. Okay. So if there is do anything, just consider that, consider yourself and what are your life goals, and then go about
it. Got it. Thank you.
Great. And one more question we have on one hand raise, we have Mridang. So I'll take the question from the chat. So how do you align incentives of co-founders when one has short-term goals, like shorter cash flow cycles and the quicker profit withdrawals, versus the one who has long-term goals, reinvestment proceeds to grow?
Can this person come online and discuss, because I did not understand the question completely?
So Afroz, were you able to unmute yourself and talk? I think he's struggling with the internet connection from his side.
Okay. So can you repeat this question once?
Yeah. So how do you align incentives of co-founders when one has a shorter term goals, like shorter cash flow cycles and quicker profit withdrawals, versus other one who has long-term goals, reinvestment proceeds to grow? Like probably one wants to just withdraw the profits soon, and one want to reinvest the profits again. So how do you align incentives to co-founders in these scenarios? Both the scenarios. One is the withdrawal and one is to reinvest.
So I still need to understand this question better, but I don't think in startup there is any other way but to go by the second option.
Reinvestment.
Because like any startup requires a lot of nurturing to begin with. And if there are quick withdrawals and, then it's very difficult for it to grow. Like, it's like, again, you treat it like a baby. You can't snatch food from a baby. Like, you need to nurture and let it grow for some time, unless although like children will never give back, but still. you think of it like this, that you need to nurture it at least till an age, and maybe somebody will give back.
Right. I think that answers your question, right, Afroz? If not, then probably feel free to reach out to Mrigank once your internet is right. So the
We can do a
details,
Telegram. I'm anyways on the Telegram group also, which is
awesome. And I think Swagata is probably not on the call. She has raised her hand. But anyway, now can we go with that action, Mrigank? Neha Arora volunteered herself to take part in this activity.
Sure.
So Neha, are you ready? Can we go ahead?
Yeah.
Great.
So please excuse my video, but I hope you're able to hear me.
Yes, absolutely clear.
Okay. We'll start with the why, and wherever we lack clarity, we can probably clarity to some of the questions that might pop up. We can evolve as a group. I would also encourage people to join up as we brainstorm the idea. So the idea is, in the current pandemic, forced a lot of students in the school stage as well as in the college stage to learn from home or study from home, have their online classes. However, the examination process could not keep up with the quality of exams that kids used to have back when they were in school or in college. As a result, we have also encountered that a lot of examinations had to be cancelled, which I think in a country like India, where technology contributes so much to our GDP, we could have easily found a solution to this problem. So that's the why part.
No, Neha, see, I think you have to come. You have already you have decided what do you like? It's I think your venture you are talking about, right? Which you want to pursue, right?
It's one of the idea.
Okay.
That I had in the current situation. It might not have come 2 years back, but considering the current situation, that's one thing I thought of.
Absolutely. This is fantastic. Now I will consider it a what. See, what why is just a framework to think about it. Let's consider it a what. Now you have decided what you want to do. Okay. And these are you thought of 50 things and you gravitated towards this one last thing where you think, okay, this home-based examination tool is something which I want to do. Right?
Yeah. A platform that can enable schools and colleges and students to that can enable institutes to assess students while they are not in school or college.
This is great. This is a fantastic example, very contextual. Now let us think about it. And guys, I am taking the lead. If somebody else wants to pitch in, please do that. Okay. I'm just trying kind of curate. Now I'm curating this discussion. That's it. Okay. So you had certain knowledge with you. Okay. As a user, you felt that this is happening, and this is the bottleneck, and you realized, okay, this is what we should do. This is a solution which people need right now. Okay.
Yeah.
Now start thinking more about it, in terms of diffuse thinking. Diffuse in the sense ki, okay, what are the solutions across the globe? Similar solutions across the globe. Why? For example, other people in this domain, like GMAT, which conducts.
Why
GMAT has been focusing on centers and has not allowed people to take directly tests from home. So, let's start thinking broadly now that, okay, this is what I want to do now. Why this is happening? Why people who are already in the space, they have not captured this space? What are the other companies across the globe who are doing this, or similar company or similar solution which are being provided? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't think there is a similar solution already in place. and I may be wrong, but to the best of my knowledge, there isn't. GMAT also, there are many institutes that take proctored exams, but those are usually objective types.
Right.
For example, if somebody has to appear for an engineering exam or a law exam, we cannot expect institutes to always set objective type questionnaires for them.
Right.
So that's another challenge.
So I just wanted to add, so Mrigank, like you said, that why other companies are not using this solution. And I think one of the big reason is the applicability of it, because see, you are not personally present. If you do it at home, you are not personally present at the exam location to monitor any avenue. So like if you are in a location, you can stop mobiles and other things, but at home you can have n number of gadgets, right? It is not limited to anything, right? The cost of conducting an exam is much less than the costs that would be in a market to, let's say, dupe an exam, how much they will be willing to pay. Thereby the technology will also evolve to counter it, right? No matter how much oversight you have. So yeah, that's what I think.
Just to add to your observation, and probably application is probably would be one thing. Probably another thing would be credibility, like in terms of who certifies ki, okay, this software is foolproof. Do you think that's
I think in this case, the creator will have to certify that this platform is foolproof.
Right. So, do you think that creators would be willing to do that? As of now?
I think it comes as part of the product itself. It has to be baked into how the product is built. For example, when I was in Infosys, we used to have during our training, we used to have our proctored exams. Although those were, there was always someone in the room who was monitoring, but at that time on the machine, we could not open any other browser or any other application. So once this particular application is brought up, there is no possibility to open any other application. So that is a part of the product itself.
Right. So, okay, and let us assume that there are a lot of challenges. For example, a person kind of has another laptop to it.
Right. So there are challenges.
Right.
To which I don't have answers at the moment, but totally aware of those.
No, then this is a great start.
Can it also be the case? I want to add one point to this.
Right.
Can it also be the case that because of this COVID situation, we are experiencing these lockdowns? So this is kind of a black swan event, which we have never experienced in last 100 years. And let's say if all these vaccines come in and they were able to control the spread of this COVID. So this kind of model may not sustain in future as well. And due to that, maybe many companies, or even though they have this thought process to how to implement this, they may not be ready to implement this going forward.
But I was just adding to a point. I think we can think of something in between. Say, for example, and I'm just proposing it. You feel free to demolish it. But there is a co-working space. Like there is this concept of decentralized co-working space now, where people are like rather than big co-working spaces, people are getting into these decentralized spaces where good people can come and work. So in every colony or every subsection, there will be small places where people can come and work. This is happening in a lot of places across the globe. So do you think that a model which is in partnership with that sort of co-working space where they say allow a Cayman and they allow a Proctor probably would evolve? Would that be the solution to this?
So maybe Mrivakant, I have some other thought on this. So basically, we are all thinking on the software side. Why not hardware side? So maybe we need some hardware gadget which will be installed in the laptops. I mean, we will just ask the students to work only on those laptops where this has been installed. Maybe we can partner with Dell, HP, and all to have this chip inserted in the laptop hardware itself. And once your exam turns on, this will just jam all the other electronic gadgets around you for some 20-30 meters. So if you're in a room, it just jams everything and you will just write the exam, and that will all be programmed. Like you're working on certain laptop, only that would work, and everything else will be jammed. And
yeah, actually, a similar challenge that we thought of when we were working on this idea was that even if we jam the devices, electronic devices, we didn't think of jamming, but we thought of IP addresses at that moment. There is still a possibility for students to just open their books. And
maybe there can be a stand for, say, a 360-degree kind of a camera, which
actually the point is
students
are always
that
clever.
Yeah, there are always ways wherein students can, but that was adding to the cost of the product. And I thought, I don't know if schools and colleges would be willing to invest so much, and who would bear the cost? Is it the students or is it the institute?
Okay, so see,
and also to that, let's say a simple problem, if there is a power cut while writing the exam. So how do we, even though the genuine student might be complaining that there was a power cut, how do we ensure that, whatever he's telling is right?
Right. Okay, so this is one aspect of why which we are talking about right now. But there are other whys also which we need to think about. Like, okay, so like otherwise would be like, why do you want to do it? Like in terms of what is the competitive advantage you have with are you in touch with can you develop this product by yourself? Are you in touch with people who you can make it? Are you in touch with the market where you can sell this very fast? So I'm just saying, I'm just giving you guys some handles to think about in terms of when you see whys. These are other ways also which you need to think about.
Yeah.
And just to contradict Ashwin's statement here, so Ashwin was mentioning this is a black swan event which we haven't imagined or thought about it for the last 100 years, and maybe this is not even sustainable in the future. But maybe, because now we also discussed that this is all cost effective because everyone is writing from home and no one needs to come to the campus, and also we are saving a lot of costs there. So why not invest that little more cost in preparing this hardware? And if this really works out well, maybe even in the normal world, institutes will do it this way. Even write your exams at your home, prepare at home, and then only come for classrooms because you need some student-to-student interaction. But otherwise,
it will help.
That could be a turn. Yeah.
Yeah, the thought process was it could help institutes to move towards a hybrid model.
Right. Yeah.
Also, Mrivakant, Rohit, I think fantastic points. But one might really make sense to also look at global education trends, right, from what it has been in the last century to what we are moving towards. Right? There was a time when being in a specific place, being in a geographical location was really very, very critical. I mean, that was a barrier to entry itself. If you didn't have the cost price or the money to kind of afford a flight ticket to go and attend events at certain places, you couldn't go. Simple, period, right? Today, with the whole world heading virtual, I mean, I keep saying often in discussions that if you're using the word digital today, we are already outdated because digital was 90, 93, 95. We are moving in a different space, right? So I really feel models of, this is one area that's very close to my heart, so I'll probably just give me a bit. Is that I really feel education is kind of breaking down into. I mean, today we are doing an ISB masterclasses right from the comforts of our rooms and wherever we are. Right? Today to have to study from ISB Hyderabad, I don't have to necessarily be in Hyderabad. Maybe tomorrow, same thing is going to happen across universities. Universities are
probably if one of us is going to be in education, we're also going to be thinking about how you break down that same education model and be able to have somebody pick up just a basic accounting course, have someone pick up an economics course and stuff like that, right? So those trends are definitely going to ensure that ensure that it's not something that's going to come and go. Even post-COVID, we've had a chakna in that sense of the whole remote way of working, and it's going to definitely persist. So Rohit, to the point that you were talking about hardware equipment and stuff, right? One of the challenges that I wanted to say is your upfront cost for entry becomes too high. If I have to invest on an equipment that's got so much of a cost baked in, I have to really think how many times am I going to use it before my cost of goods sold is kind of completely down out of it, right? So value extraction becomes a very critical element, right? If you think of a hybrid model where, let's say, I'm attending tests of, say, a Harvard somewhere else, but I'm going to my nearest study center of sorts, and from there taking part proctored but online sort of classes, I think 50% of the human problem and 50% of the device problem you're solving. So I think we are going to, it's just my thought, I could be wrong or right, but I think we're going to enter into a hybrid sort of a problem space. The 50% is tech problems, 50% is probably people problems, and I'm hogging time, so I'll stop here.
No, absolutely. I think there's somebody else also who has raised an hand. I can't read the name though.
Before we move forward, yeah, it's Mike. Mike, just give me 1 second. I'm sorry. Mriganga, I know we have overshoot the time, so we'll take another 10 minutes. We'll close this at 8:30 if that's okay with you.
Absolutely.
That's good. Thank you so much. Yeah, Mike, please go ahead with your question.
Thanks for the session. It was very good, and I really enjoyed all the slides and very insightful. So my only question is that you had the tea manufacturing unit at your end as a resource, and you were able to think of an idea, and you were able to combine that idea along with the resource that you had, and you were able to bring it out as a successful startup. So when you have a resource, how influential or how influenced should we get with that resource, and how biased should we get with that resource, and take the idea forward? Should we, because it's when we have a resource, a strong resource at our end, it becomes very we are very restricted with how much we can grow and how many ideas we can combine together, and we can move ahead. So whether should we ditch it or should we use it, like it becomes very we are moving into bots altogether. So how should we make a decision with respect to that?
No, I think that's a fantastic question, and I have felt it so many times for myself also. I think we should not gravitate towards our resources. The resource-driven approach is a problematic approach to have. But then I will give you my example. I did not have any resources in tea industry, not even the manufacturing unit. First, I came up with this thought process that I have to do a export-driven digital brand creation from India. That was my structure which I thought of. Then I thought of, okay, there are limited things which can be exported from India because of China. Like most of the manufactured stuff, you are just not competitive to China. But in terms of teas, Indian teas has specific requirements. So there were like around 15-20 products. Like when I was zeroing on products, there were 15-20 products which I saw were capable enough of being exported in a competitive advantage, in an advantageous way. Then I started scanning my own network of people, which people I'm connected to. And there was this family friend of mine who was running a 70-year-old tea house. And then I pitched him an idea because, okay, you are selling to Oberoi and Taj and everybody, and you are primarily model is B2B, but you do a lot of quality tea work. Why don't you sell it to the customer who has a higher willingness to pay? Why should not we sell it to Japan? Why should we not sell it to US and Europe and Russia? Because most of your customers in India are also Americans and Russians. So, that was the idea. So I was just saying that my resource would be different. Like my resource would be something which I have immediate access to, but I did not think about that. I actually figured out my structure and then started scanning my network for the resources which matches my structure. And then I went ahead with it. Don't go directly with the resources. That resource-driven approach, I have realized for many things in life is not a good approach, in my opinion. Does that help?
Yeah, thanks. It is very helpful. one more point on the same question, like people who have good family businesses, how should they approach the issue?
We have a family business vertical at ISB. See, I personally,
I'm just asking because it's a common problem that I see.
So I was mentoring a startup which was kind of emanated from family business, and I would say that family business has its own benefits and challenges. So a lot of times founders do not get the freedom to kind of take decisions. That happens. A lot of times founders can do really well. Like if you talk about Vadham Teas, it's one of the most success stories in the tea industry right now. This is a family business. And this guy converted this family into a business, into a fantastic tea business. So I'm just saying that it is up to you. How you have to assess that what is the family like, what are like, for example, if a family is in something in a contracting market, okay, you are in a business of itrs where that plastic based itrs are not exported anymore, or it's not acceptable. So then you have to think of a different, you have to take something, if there is something valuable, take from it, but you just can't depend upon your family resources. You firstly have to see that is there an emerging market, is there a willingness to pay, and then you see what can you extract from the ecosystem outside.
Got it. Thank you.
We had two hands. Pargun or one more. Harish.
Harsha, you have your hand raised.
I just wanted to make sure someone who raised the hand got the chance. Great insights, Vikrant. Thank you so much for that. So whenever you're trying to get info from your own sources, how do you know that is the right source? And that is one question. I just want to take this opportunity to ask another question so that I would be taking much time. So like in your questions, how do you you also worked on incubating and suggesting and mentoring some other people, right? How do you know that, or how do you determine that this is the actual idea that can be incubated? Or before going to that stage, how can you nurture any idea?
See, again, this is what you are asking is basically sum total of our entire discussion. Like you have to look at the market, you have to look at the product, you have to look at the business model, you have to look at all their go-to-market strategy, you have to see the founder fitness. Is founder the right person for that sort of product? You have to see if the market is big enough for them to go. Do they have a differentiation in the market? There is so many things. Like there is a questionnaire of.
Yeah.
And questionnaire doesn't work actually. I don't believe in questionnaires at all. Like you ask your customer that I'll make a tea and will you drink it? He'll say definitely. You ask him to pay for it, he'll never drink it. So the real thing starts when the rubber meets the road.
Okay.
So
and
one just wanted to add,
yes,
the way I see my startups when I was incubating, and actually I got a lot of insights. As a founder, I was very partially aware of the entrepreneurship ecosystem. When I went to the ecosystem, I realized a lot of things about startups. I see early traction. If somebody is getting early traction, I know that this, if you just started and you are getting early traction, and a real early traction, not like your uncle had a company and he bought 50,000 shoes from you if you're a shoe producer. Not that sort of traction. If you are getting good quality customers, when I say good quality customers are coming back to you. You are getting a repeat purchase. You are getting a diversified set of people buying your stuff. Then early traction actually matters a lot. That's how you judge. Okay, this is working. That's the prototyping approach. Test this. You just don't gravitate on one thing. You test till the time you find the right thing for you. And early traction is the right current you should look at.
But there is something, I have two more questions in this. Like, for example, how do we know if we don't know what is the market, like if it is something new idea, to determine where to try and what is the market, is this market will work or not? And the second thing is, you were saying, rubber meets the road. So in that point, before we doing that prototype, you said we have to go with minimalistic approach of having spending a very less so that to get that prototype and to see how people are accepting it. But how do we determine, I know there is no benchmark for it, or how do we determine if there is any benchmark if I don't know?
See, what you are saying is if you do not have, the way I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, if you do not have complete idea of the market, how do you even test the market? That's what you're saying, right?
No, I mean, that is one part of idea. Like, for example, if there is an idea, you don't know where the market is, that is true. But let us think you know the market, but you wanted to try something new, like, for example, premium tea. Before doing a prototype, how do you know this will work? I mean, or if any, actually, your question is right. Whatever you are asking, yeah. If we don't know the market, how do we?
So there was the reason, like if you see the age profile of people, okay, you will see a lot of young entrepreneurs, 22, 23, doing a lot of social media. Mark Zuckerberg, all the technology startups, all those young entrepreneurs kind of getting out there, okay. Versus you look at businesses which are B2B, the founder profile would be 35, more mature founders you will find in the B2B kind of enterprise, okay. The reason is that these B2B guys, say somebody in cloud computing or something, okay, which is at the back end, these people have actually experienced that ecosystem because they were working there. Versus this guy who is into, say, Mark Zuckerberg doing Facebook, he has experienced this a very different thing, which he wants to. He knows that people want to socialize, but there are a lot of people who can't be open about socialization, so they want a digital platform. This is the way this guy went about it. The idea is that you should you should work in a space where you want to grow, or you should have some access to know the market first. Like before, work there, or you should have, you should be able to kind of support yourself till the time you understand that market well. There should be some fuel to this because a lot of fuel will be spent in understanding the market. After that, only you can, come up with a product. Understanding the market has to be out of the startup game. Like you have to be present in that ecosystem to kind of understand the market.
Thank you. I think Shalini has a question. Thank you.
Hi, I just had a small question. Like suppose one of your products is selling a lot and you keep on getting a feedback that if you alter the product in a certain way, it should be better. So how do you go about it? Because the product is actually selling even without that alteration or without that modification, but also you're getting a feedback on that. So
I will alter the product, give it a different name, and launch it in the market to see if it is.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
So Mrigank, I think we just have one more question. Do you mind taking it now, or do you just want us to collate all the questions and send it to you because we are just overshot 2 minutes?
I think we can take Pragun. I think the hand was raised earlier.
Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah. Please, Pragun, please go ahead.
Yeah. Thanks. So Mrigank, as a startup, you mentioned that we have limited resources, right? So how do you avoid a bigger company, a bigger competitor, taking away your idea and scaling? Like as a startup, let's say you validate a product, you start getting traction, but to develop your supply chain and your distribution networks, you obviously will need a lot of time as compared to a bigger competitor in the market. How do you do you see any strategy where you can avoid that sort of takeover of your idea? For instance, like I was checking out crowdfunding sites like Indiegogo, right, wherein people came up with the idea, developed prototypes, and a couple of ideas which were really getting funded and having that sort of traction online. You go and search on Alibaba, these Chinese companies already have that product by the time this funding round completes. How do you sort of avoid that scenario?
See, I think what we also need to think when we are thinking of a startup, that every startup is product of time. It is time and context it is born in. Like startup or company, business or anything is a product of its time and the kind of people they are and the kind of society they are incubated in. Like for example, if Facebook started in India, do you think its name would be Facebook? It would be something else probably. Okay. I'm just saying that execution is the key. Idea, like Rohit and I, like we have done few these seminars together. We always say that like idea is like a dozen a dime. Like idea does not matter, execution matters, and the way you execute it. Like for example, talk about Tata Tea. Okay, it's such a big company. Can't they do premium leaf? Okay, like there are so many big companies. How come Vadham as a player has carved the niche out with the presence of like thousands of big tea companies in this time? No, I think the main reason is that Vadham is very digitally driven in terms of like, and there's another shift. Like now you see companies which are Instagram driven, which are WhatsApp driven. That people know how to do business only on Instagram and WhatsApp. They don't know how to write mails. They know how to quickly DM people, get influencers, get to, send a pack, get a pick, and drive a funnel. They have mastery in that. Tata Tea can never do that because they are a different product of context and time. When they were built, they had institutional bureaucracy, institutional momentum. They have institutional momentum in them. They deal with thousands of kgs of B2B. They have a distribution network which they have to look into. And these people, because they earn from it, they will never let the company change its direction so quickly. So the problem with the Goliaths, the way you call it, the Goliaths is that they have got a lot of momentum. Davids are very swift. So I think if swift execution is something what you should look at, there's even if there is a Chinese company which is making something, Indians and Americans are not going to trust that fast. So that gap is always there. Your context, your ability, your time to market, that is always there. All you need to do is quickly and swiftly, smartly implement things. That is, I think, what matters.
Okay. Great. Thanks, Mike.
Hope it helps.
Great. Thank you so much, Mrigank. I think we have overshot the extended time as well. So thank you for your patience. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank you, Mrigank, for taking your time out of your busy schedule and enlightening us on what and why to start up. So I, being a startup enthusiast specifically, I really enjoyed the session and found it insightful. And your thoughts on mechanics of product specifically, like about circular journey, escape velocity of when to strike into the market, and the mechanics of market, like product, model, customer, really made me think of some floating thoughts in my mind, which I would definitely come back to you if I need some support. And I think most of us also enjoyed this, and this session is really insightful. We look forward to collaborating with you in the near future. I would like to thank you on behalf of PGP Pro and ISB. Have a great night, Mrigank.
Thank you. And a couple of things. You need to send me a background of ISB.
Definitely.
I think Rohit is the guy. He'll send you, and whatever you want, he can modify.
Yeah,
also
definitely. Yes.
And my presentation is with Vikram. If somebody wants it, or you guys will float it if you want to take it as a reference for something. For you guys.
Can we share it among the audience because people were asking for it?
Please,
okay, great. Sounds good. Thank you. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mrigank.
All right. Thanks a lot, Mrigank.
Bye. Take care.
Thank you, Mrigank.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrigank. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Take care. Good night. Bye.